Yeah.
Salutations, Legion of Doom. Welcome to Podcast The Storm, where socially awkward outcasts, crazy weirdos, and all around nerds convene to talk and debate all things pop culture. With me, as always, is my co-host, the nerdy occultist, aka the Authenticator, Dalton L. Mortimer.
Hello, everyone. I am tired. It's a good tired because I had a fun weekend and got a new ring and a new mug and shit, but it was a very taxing weekend that began with a doctor's appointment, so I was already tired before we left for the festival that I went to. So, yeah, it was a thing, so to speak.
And I am your host last time, Brains about pop culture. How's everyone doing tonight?
Good but tired, as previously established.
I'm just setting things up right now. Give me a second.
Hmm. It's a trailer week, folks. Which is good because I don't know if I have the bandwidth for an article right now.
All right. All right, so yeah, the first one is The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, official teaser trailer. Um, I know part of me does want to check it out just so I would have a more comprehensive opinion on this. I mean, to be fair, I have never been that big of a fan of Lord of the Rings because I kind of grew up with like the Narnia movies and stuff.
Hmm. I'm sort of the opposite. I never really fully got into Narnia because
You're
I
old.
always considered Tolkien was the better. Did effective like the two of them, C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien, were friends, and they effectively wanted to more or less do the same thing. It's just that Tolkien was a lot better at it and a lot more comprehensive about it.
Fair enough. To be fair, I got into Narnia pretty late. I'll be fully honest. I don't know if I
I
actually.
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't know if I actually really got a fantasy series growing up.
I thought you said that Percy Jackson was your thing.
Right. Sorry. God, yeah, you're not the only one who's tired.
Yeah. I mean, I was into Pottermania for a hot minute, like every 5 or 6 year old at the time. And because of my geeky tendencies, I did hyper obsess about it for a bit because, well, I'm me. But it wasn't until later that actually no. I saw the 1977 Rankin Bass Hobbit first, and that got me into reading the book The Hobbit, which then led me into Lord of the Rings, and that was that there were a few years between point A and B there. I believe I read the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit books for Accelerator Reader in school, in middle school, but that was like the second or third time I had read them. So it's hard to say if Lord of the Rings was a formative like franchise in my childhood. I guess you could say that comics and like that sort of thing was more formative in my childhood. But I do have a fondness for Lord of the Rings, and I have in fact read the Silmarillion. I actually like the deeper lore of the universe of Lord of the Rings. And as such, it's very hard for me not to see the Rings of Power as essentially a Melkorite retelling of Lord of the Rings, or a Melkorite revision of Lord of the Rings. For those without the context to know better, if Sauron could be analogized as a demon, which he can be because he's the strongest of the Maiar and he's a corrupted Maiar, Melkor is the devil, or at least the closest thing approximating to a devil in the Lord of the Rings universe. And the main reason why that quote, evil cannot create, it can only corrupt, has been going around your internet feed, because inevitably it has, is because in the lore of Lord of the Rings, specifically in the Silmarillion, Eru Ilúvatar, effectively the god of the Lord of the Rings universe, created life in Arda, the world of Lord of the Rings, using a force called the Flame Imperishable. And Melkor wanted the Flame Imperishable to create things of his own, and when Daddy said no, Melkor threw a tantrum and said, well, if I can't make things of my own, then I'll twist stuff of yours. Effectively, if you won't teach me how to make the toys, I'll just break a bunch of yours. And thus was evil introduced to the legendarium of Lord of the Rings. And this is very much a twisted Melkorite propaganda version, or at least it feels that way, of the Second and into Third Age. But in any case, what should the pause phrase be? Lambda spread? Maybe? I can't think of any other foodstuffs that are explicitly linked to Lord of the Rings.
I'm
that
just
are
gonna say
like
banana.
unique to Lord of the Rings. So lambda spread, I guess.
I'm just gonna say banana. I'm gonna be honest, man.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, banana.
Banana.
An evil, ancient, and powerful has returned.
Prepare yourselves.
I don't really have anything to say, to be honest.
I'll say it aesthetically looks a little bit better than the first season. Granted, the first season looked utterly cheap and empty. So I guess improved marks for potential basic competency in aesthetics? Question mark.
Banana?
Banana.
Worms his way inside your mind. The crest of him slithers in.
I think he has been here.
Okay, now here's the thing. I watched just some guy's video on this, and he took issue with the fact that Sauron's ability to quote unquote slither into people's minds was quite so literal as it's being depicted here. And I do agree with him up into a point that his powers weren't quite so goddamn literal. But he in his video reaction to this said that um said that Sauron's abilities to worm their way into people's minds were purely charisma, and I don't necessarily agree with that either. See, Sauron is, in some sense, a little bit like Randall Flagg, in the effect that his power is charisma, but it is also backed up by the life force, the Theia, of a Maiar. And given that the universe of Lord of the Rings was literally sung into existence by the Ainur, the idea that magic is inextricably linked with both the life force of the caster and the voice of the caster is something consistent across pretty much all media and all depictions of Tolkien's works, including the original books. So I do get what he's getting at in the hatred of the way it's being depicted here. However, I would have met in the middle where his powers of charisma are skillful in the like mundane sense, but they're also backed up by the overwhelming sort of aura of his voice and the fact that he is a Maiar, because that is very much the power that we see the ring also have, and that's why it makes lesser creatures invisible, is because it's literally the sort of aura of Sauron, or what's left of it inside the ring, covering the impression on the world made by any lesser creature who wears it. It's a little bit different when major creatures wear it, such as Galadriel, or if Gandalf had taken it or something. But for lesser creatures like hobbits, the reason why it makes them invisible, or at least the reason that I felt was always implicit in the story and makes perfect sense within sort of the soft mechanics of the universe, is that the sort of Maiar magic of the ring is blocking out the impact that people have in the mundane world when someone wears it. Anyway, banana. Brainstorm? You there?
Yeah.
I think you
Hello?
left. Okay, now you're there.
Hello?
Yep.
Alright, sorry. God, things went weird for me for a second there.
Okay. But in any case, banana.
1 sec. Let me get to the tab.
I think he's been here among us all along.
Yeah, no shit. That was the entire.
Every soul in Middle-earth is in peril.
Galadriel, my sweet. Yes, that is the entire goddamn point of the whole first season, where you're not paying attention to a story that was ostensibly focused on a version of you. And also, okay, so there's a screenshot of the actor who plays Sauron in a cheap elven wig, and I think they're supposed to be implying that this is Sauron's manifestation of his guise as Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, which is how he tricks the elven smiths into making the rings of power. The problem, such as it is that we've already done this in this universe. As in, the entire first season was the entire first season of Rings of Power was literally Sauron hiding in plain sight as a ordinary mortal and assisting fucking, it's either Celeborn or Celebrimbor, I don't remember. But he's assisting the main elven smith in the creation of the rings, which never mind you that the rings he's involved with making in season 1 are the 3 elven rings, which in the original book canon and the movie canon, the elven rings are pure specifically because they were not made under the influence of Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, aka Sauron. So that's already borked number 1. And point number 2, Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, was supposed to disguise himself as another Maiar who had come to the elves to give them the knowledge of smithing and ring crafting. So having in the first season Sauron take the form of this one Númenórean dude, and then he literally uses the phrase "call it a gift" when he helps make the 3 elven rings, which were not the rings that he was involved with making in the first place. But now it seems like they're going to try to do a more traditional version of the saga of the rings and the saga of the crafting of the rings, and that this pasty-faced elf-looking motherfucker in a cheap wig is supposed to be Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, even though Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, is supposed to be like supernaturally beautiful and shit, which again goes back to Sauron being a Maiar and Maiar's aura being particularly potent, and the fact that it sort of leaks out of them when they speak or try to be charismatic. Again, in a similar vein to Randall Flagg in the Stephen King mythos. But again, that's what's supposed to make Sauron so insidious. It's not just that he's this, overbearing, all-powerful Dark Lord figure. His main skill is using his skill in speechifying and his, innate powers as a Maiar, using that same skill to, warp people's minds around him to be the sort of avatarization of the phrase "the devil's voice is sweet to hear," because the thing that makes Sauron insidious is he can say the exact thing to get you on side and do so in a way that you're not even technically aware of because you're being essentially bullied into submission by Maiar magic. And this pasty-faced elf-looking motherfucker, if he is indeed supposed to be Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, is not supernaturally beautiful or charismatic in the way that Anantar or Sauron need to be so as to set this plot in motion, please and thank you. So, double fail already, Rings of Power. Again, this is the freaking Malkorite version, I swear to fucking Iluvatar. Banana.
I don't know.
Okay, even though I gave them basic props for more aesthetic competency at the beginning of the trailer, I have noticed that a lot of this is a lot darker than it should be, because this is supposed to be the second age of Middle-earth. And, okay, the thing you gotta know about Tolkien is Tolkien was a proponent of the idea of the Golden Age falling into a state of decay. So the further back in time you go in Tolkien's Legendarium, the more mythic and essentially pure and prettified everything is. Granted, Sauron is very good at destroying that shit, because that is what he does. And at some point, we are going to have to deal with the fall of Numenor and the sinking of Numenor. But even so, there are ways to do like corrupt and creepy aesthetics in a beautiful or at least mesmerizing way, which is exactly what Sauron does. He makes you think that maybe the evil he's spreading is actually a good thing, because the reason why Sauron turned evil, or I guess I should say why Mairon turned evil, because that was his original name, and became Sauron, is because he essentially wanted to stop people from hurting themselves and wanted to give the world a sense of order. A sense of order that Melkor, aka Morgoth, twisted into a desire for essentially totalitarian control. But even so, in Sauron's own head, Sauron is not evil, or at least not at this point in his character arc. He's trying to bring order to the world because he doesn't like the world being messy. He doesn't like the negative repercussions of people's free will, and so he would simply rather they didn't have it. That is his goal. But in so doing, he tries to make his order more attractive than the natural sort of Eden-like order of the rest of Middle-earth, which results in Middle-earth getting progressively more shitty over time. But this is supposed to be somewhere between the Second Age and the Third Age, and as such, it should be far more idyllic looking than this, and the dark color palette doesn't really work. It would work if we were seeing what the beginnings of Mordor looks like, but this is supposed to be like battlefields and or elven strongholds. They should be much, much prettier than this in the second freaking age, or the transition period between ages 2 and 3. Anyway, Banana.
Alright, oh. Giant turtle, food stuff unique to Lord of the Rings. Orc man meat. Oh, we could have done that.
No. Well, we're not orcs. This is very much me calling out the Melkorite propaganda for what it is. So I don't think I can be on the side of the orcs this time. Though in my defense, the orcs in Lord of the Rings are far less attractive than orcs literally almost anywhere else. So nothing of great value is lost by me not siding with orcs this time. Because orcs are generally cute, but they're less cute in Lord of the Rings.
Banana.
Banana.
Yes, Sauron.
It's weird. Like, it feels like it should be epic, but I don't really feel it.
No, because it looks, despite the fact that apparently, $1 billion was spent on this show, it's apparently going everywhere but the screen. And as I have said many, many times before, if you decide to give something a budget, your first and foremost priority is that the audience see as much as possible of that budget on the fucking screen. Secondly, and actually pertaining to the content of the trailer, Galadriel, my sweet honey dear, you should remember the events of Season 1, given that you were central to them and directly involved in them, wherein you caught Sauron being a random Numenorian fucker. Why he was being a random Numenorian fucker, no one fucking knows, because that means nothing and is not relevant to anything that happened in the Silmarillion or the other parts of the Legendarium. But regardless, we've already done this. We've already done the Sauron reveal. He revealed himself to you last time at the end of Season 1. And you were already in the process of doing the "Oh dear Lord, I was betrayed. We've let Sauron in past the gates, and now he's doomed us all" thing. Like, this very much feels this.
Sorry.
This very much feels like Amazon trying very, very hard to pretend that the first season did not exist, because they know how horribly bad they fucked up the first season. But unfortunately for you, Amazon, the only thing you are succeeding in doing by trying to make the audience forget that Season 1 happened is making your heroine look stupid in universe for not apparently having remembered any of the events of Season 1.
I wanted to bring up something. It's just something I've noticed with a lot of like sci-fi and fantasy shows within the last decade and decade.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, they're trying to be Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Like early Game of Thrones, obviously.
Yes.
Where, and I'm fairly certain you were going to bring this up, but just let me get the ball rolling for you, I guess. Wasn't A Song of Ice and Fire, which is the actual series name,
a rebuke of Tolkien? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. It was literally designed to effectively be anti-Tolkien, and yet they are turning something that should ostensibly be Tolkienian into A Song of Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones. That being said, I return to my rant about this essentially being the story Melkor would tell of these events if he had the option. Because what Melkor did, what his contribution to, evil in Middle-earth was, is he would take something of the natural world and he would twist it. Eagles become dragons. Snakes become serpents or sea serpents. And so on and so forth. Or was it the snakes that become dragons and eagles become the beast that the Nazgul fly on? I can't remember.
Sorry, just random thing that popped in my head because I remembered it. There was an artist on YouTube who read the actual descriptions from the books of Lord of the Rings. They made them look a lot cooler, in my opinion.
Yeah,
like more accurate.
Should have been. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, more accurate in terms of the depictions.
Which should have been easy as pie when you consider that Lord of the Rings, the Peter Jackson movies, came out almost. Actually, I think it might be more than 20 years ago at this point, with like a fourth of the budget of this Amazon series, and nowhere near as much technology with regards to CGI and and computer generated imagery and all the rest of this shit. So you're telling me that a movie series made 20 goddamn years ago on a third of the budget, not even by inflation, mind you, but a third of the budget, a 9-hour trilogy, because let's face it, Lord of the Rings, especially the extended editions, are long, but how long or not, this show has more budget, more technology at its disposal, and I'm gonna be real with you here. They also have the benefit of the previous movies existing. They can literally copy Peter Jackson's homework if they felt like it, or at least wanted to please the fan base. And no one would have faulted them for it because Peter Jackson got it right all those years ago. But instead of doing that, instead of copying the guy who got it right, instead of improving on the guy who got it right, at least technologically or aesthetically speaking, instead of doing things with CGI that we couldn't have done 20 or 30 years ago, they decided, on no account whatsoever, to essentially make a anti-Lord of the Rings show set in the Lord of the Rings universe. Which again leads me back to Melkor, goddammit.
Moving on.
Moving on.
So now is the official trailer for Wicked. So full disclosure, I am aware of Wicked, never got into it.
I am slightly more into it than you.
I think it was just a timing thing, because even when I was in like a theater class in high school, we never talked about it. It just like kind of passed me by, you know.
Okay. Well, it's essentially an origin story for the Wicked Witch of the West and or the rest of Oz. It's based on a book. I know that because my first exposure to Wicked was actually the teacher's aide who used to help me out in school was reading it one day when I was in like 5th grade, and then I heard about the musical, and I have, of course, listened to a bunch of the songs from the musical out of context. But
yeah, I heard some of the music too when I was growing up, just like you said, out of context and stuff. And apparently, it's a pretty big thing because it's been on Broadway. I'm aware of that, and I've seen the poster of it. You know, the classic poster of it.
Yeah. Also, I'm aware that Idina Menzel was actually the first actress to be the voice of Elphaba, which is the Wicked Witch of the West name in this continuity. And that's how she got her start. So before she was Elsa, she was Elphaba, and that is what put her on the map effectively.
I was gonna say something, but I fucking damn it. From what I understand, Wicked the musical and the story is regarded well.
Yes, everyone really enjoys it, and the novel upon which Wicked is based really did a number on the Oz world building in a good way, in the sense of it took a very high fantasy, almost Wonderland like setting and made a lot of sense of it. In some ways, it ended up diminishing the magical quality of Oz, which I do dislike slightly, but in other ways, it actually gave Oz a harder magic system, which, given that I favor hard magic systems over soft magic system almost invariably, that does help considerably. I haven't read the book, though. I've only done, like, Googling and Wikipediaing research on the book. So I know roughly what happens in it, and I know the gist and mechanics of it, but I don't know how that favors in context. I'm gonna have to fucking find the audiobook for Wicked at some point.
And now, from what I understand, I've only looked into this because again, Wicked is not a thing I'm like inherently into. So I've not really kept my eye paid attention to the movie that's being made.
Mm.
Although I have heard some people, like people in kind of our circle of critics, not be less than impressed with this. But I am keeping my judgment reserved until we watch the trailer itself.
I have a lot of nostalgia for The Wizard of Oz and its universe. I also am a major fan of musicals, especially big budget, over the top, extravagant musicals. And this seems to be hitting me right where I live. I watched this through once. I didn't see anything excessively wrong with it as yet. I do know they're splitting the movie into two parts because Broadway musicals are long, and what are you gonna do?
Mhm.
At least they're
John-
learning from Les Mis' mistakes. So,
What? Is there something related to Wizard of Oz? Food related.
Poppies.
Remind me of that.
The Wicked Witch creates a field of poppies outside of the Emerald City's gates to put the party to sleep, and then Glinda creates a snowstorm to deaden the poppies and make the sleep more lighthearted, so they can get there quicker and easier.
All right, poppies. Although
Poppies.
I don't know if that technically counts as food, but
I mean, that people make poppy seed muffins and like poppy seed orgeat and poppy extract for drinks and stuff. So I'd say it counts. Also, poppy seed extract is the active ingredient in opium, so there's that too.
all right. So poppies.
Poppies.
Are people born wicked? Or do they have wickedness thrust upon them?
You're green.
I am.
Okay. I
don't know why. Sorry.
I have a question. This question is a perhaps stupid question, and may be related to the fact that I have not read the book or actually seen the musical in context. Do they ever address the fact that Elphaba's sister is also a witch? Because in the classic canon of Wizard of Oz lore, there are 4 witches, one for each of the cardinal directions. You had Glinda and Belinda, who were the witches of the north and south, respectively, who were the good witches, and then you had the Wicked Witch of the west and her sister, the Wicked Witch of the east, who were the bad witches.
Question: Were they all supposed to be sisters?
We know East and West are sisters. I do not think Glinda and Belinda were sisters to East and West. I think they were sisters to each other. Maybe. I would have to refresh my memory on Oz lore with regards to that.
Okay, I was just checking. I wasn't sure.
But yeah, that is a question I have. It may very well be a stupid question. Again, this is coming from somebody who knows the musical by its music and its basic plot and world building from Googling the novel on Wikipedia, but has not read the novel or seen the musical in its entirety. So, if they mention that Elphaba's sister is also a witch, that is fine. And if Glinda also has a sister who is the Witch of the South at the end, that's also fine. I just, from what little I know of the musical and the book it's based on, Elphaba having real, honest, and for true magic is supposed to be something of an anomaly, because at best the rest of Oz, their magic is more sort of alchemy based. It's effectively a kingdom of artificers rather than a kingdom of true casters, to use D&D lingo, and that's why that's why a lot of people don't actually cotton on to the fact that the wizard is phony, because a lot of people in Oz take magic for granted, and only the academic few know the distinctions between magic, the kind of alchemical quasi magic, and science. So yeah, there's that.
I'm digging the wardrobe. It works.
Mm-hmm. I like. I don't know if this is makeup or if it's CG, but either way, it's good, and it's probably a mix of both, to be honest.
I would say both.
Yeah.
I would actually lean towards more makeup than CG, but again, it's all right. Poppies.
Poppies.
Welcome, new students, to Shiz University. Miss Elphaba, you can room with Miss Glinda.
Ah, popular. I know about popular. Oh, I saved you some space, by the way.
Do you really think this is fair?
I do not. I was promised a private suite.
I am digging the aesthetics. It actually works, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like I was berating Rings of Power for. The money is very clearly, or at least a large part of it, is actually on the screen here, which is good, because that's where it's supposed to be when you're making freaking visual media. If you have money put into something, the first and foremost place you need to put it is on the screen. Thank you. I also like the contrast between Glinda and Elphaba is sort of the heart of the musical, and the fact that Glinda is largely obsessed with, excessively hyper feminine things, and everything being pink is very much a thing. So they seem to have decided to just, play so hard into that aesthetic, and it seems to be working for them. I assume it was kind of a conversation of, well, Barbie did well, so let's, crank Glinda's pink up to an 11. And I'm wondering also if maybe some of the inspiration for this production design might have come also from the Wednesday series that Netflix did, because, I mean, kind of obviously it was pilfered the other way around, i.e., Wednesday took some pointers from Wicked and used it, but the idea of them essentially being roommates, and one roommate being all, hyper feminine pinks and bright colors, and the other one being sort of introverted and gothy, is very much what's going on here, it seems.
So poppies.
Poppies will put them to sleep.
But thanks for asking.
Please, everyone take your seats. In today's Oz, a real sorcerer who possesses true magic has become all too rare.
And like I said, I think I mentioned that earlier before the trailer got into it. Most of the magic in this version of Oz is artificer type magic. It's not quote unquote true sorcery. So a true sorcerer is rare, and that's why Elphaba is both simultaneously extremely rare and lauded by those above her, but also mistrusted and seen as kind of a wild card. Sort of the people fear what they don't understand thing. And again, it's also why the wizard didn't get tossed out on his ear for being a charlatan the minute he showed up, because the average rank and file denizen of Oz doesn't really know what magic is. They just have a vague notion of it is a thing that is done, and only the learned few could shed light onto this. But it's very convenient for them. The average rank and file person doesn't know, because if they knew, there would be questions about why are there no more true sorcerers left, except of course for Elphaba. Anyway, Poppies.
Yeah, give me 1 sec.
That was you who made all that happen. How did you do it?
I don't know. I've never known.
You, come with me.
Of course.
Not to you. You're the one the wizard has been.
I don't really have anything to say about.
I think I've already explained it. So, Poppies.
Again, everything looks really cool. You know, it's like very, God, it's almost like everything looks very golden age of Hollywood kind of movies. You know?
Yeah, it's very much leaning into the like fantasy world aesthetics. And again, this is what you can accomplish, Hollywood, when you remember that the first place the money should go is on the bloody screen. Poppies.
Puppies.
Been waiting for.
Glinda?
You! I know. It's my granny's. I'd give it away, but I don't hate anyone that much.
Hey.
You should join us tonight. And don't tell me you have nothing to wear. Because you could wear this.
Now, see, I don't remember again, I am unfamiliar with the musical plot. But I don't remember her being given the pointed hat. I think that might be a movie original. I might also be wrong. Again, I'm going to have to invest some time in listening to the Wicked audiobook, is what I need to do.
Poppies.
Something has changed within me.
She doesn't give a twig what anyone thinks.
Something is not the same.
Of course she does. She just pretends not to.
Even in the original Al Frank Baum books, DT, magic was treated as something that could be and was learned. So that part of Wicked's timeline is not in question here. The innovation of the Wicked book, such as it was to say that there was effectively a magic university that you could go to become a quote-unquote witch, which again, for most of the people in the Wicked continuity, again, this I learned from Wikipedia-ing mostly, the magic that they do is more artificer magic from D&D than it is true, honest casting of spells, type casting. With the exception of the occasional true sorcerer, like Elphaba, hence why she is both special and dangerous and watched like a freaking hawk the second she does anything wrong, which would lead to her being alienated and hence the tragic protagonist thing.
Giant Turtle, I don't know from what you said about the witches of the cardinal
Yeah,
directions.
I was answering that.
Oh,
point.
sorry. Sorry, I just noticed that comment.
Yep. I noticed it, I think, like half a second before you did.
All right.
Anyway, puppies.
Why are there only 4 witches and the wizard? Then, if there was an entire university, does that mean true sorcery can't be learned? And where's her sister?
I asked that question earlier as well. I don't know where Elphaba's sister is, the eventual Wicked Witch of the East. I assume it is probably explained more in the book, or this is a retcon, and I just need to get my hands on the audiobook. There are other magic users in Oz. They're just not called witches or wizards. There is one character who is, I believe, referred to as an enchantress, and one of her gimmicks is that she has the power to remove her head and replace it with different heads. Also, in the original Bomb books, there was essentially a new crop of characters every time Dorothy returned to Oz or went from Oz to the human world. So there were different witches at different times in Oz's history in the Bomb books. I don't know where they sit vis-a-vis the Wicked timeline, or how the guy who wrote the Wicked novel fit them in, if he did indeed fit them in. But it seems to me that whether you're talking about Bomb or you're talking about the Wicked timeline, the witches of the cardinal directions are simply the most powerful or most prolific users of magic in setting, apart from the wizard, who of course, as we find out, is a phony. But again, I would have to either refamiliarize myself with the Bomb lore or get my hands on the Wicked book first to verify either of those things. And I think actually there's one last thing. I think that one of the plots of the musical is that one of the reasons why there are so many fewer wizards and witches and things in the main Oz timeline is because Elphaba, in the course of her origin story, goes bad and decides to destroy the university. So the 4 witches of the directions are essentially the only sort of Oxbridge educated witches left, and of course the wizard and his bitch ass charlatanism. I really freaking hate the Wizard of Oz so much sometimes, but anyway, the person, not the franchise. Puppies.
Right. All right. Let me get to tab. Puppies.
The wonderful Wizard of Oz summons you to the Emerald City. Come with me.
What?
To meet the wizard.
Oh, I couldn't possibly. This is your moment. I'm coming.
Again, I'm really dig the aesthetic. It makes me kind of think that they were taking some also inspiration from the Broadway musical too. So I remember seeing like video footage of that and like the face and stuff.
I mean, this is meant to be an adaptation of the musical. So yeah,
which is cool. So
yeah, and they're clearly putting in the effort, and also there was very clearly money put into this, and good, it deserves it. I wish Phantom of the Opera could get this kind of treatment. It's only tried to been adapted once to film, and it sucked horribly. Thank you, Joel Schumacher and Andrew Lloyd Webber's meddling ass. But that's neither here nor there. Puppies.
all right, okay. Puppies.
Great and terrible.
Something bad is happening in Oz.
The best way to bring folks together is to give them a real good enemy.
And again, I have
Jeff
questions.
Goldblum as the wizard. Yeah, I see.
No, that's
that.
that's good casting. That is very, very good casting. And while I despise the concept of the Wizard of Oz deeply, he is the right guy to play this kind of showy, well-meaning but still charlatanous character. So yeah, that works. As for the inevitable question of where in all the fucks are either Glinda's sister or Elphaba's sister, for that matter, in this continuity, and again, it may or may not be explained in the books or in the Broadway show. I do not know, but it is vexing me because I know that at some point, in order for the Wicked timeline of either stage or book to mesh with the original, 1939 movie timeline, Elphaba and Glinda both have to have sisters, and the Wicked Witch of the East has to have access to the ruby slippers, hence resulting in Elphaba's obsession with them, and them making her the most powerful being in Oz. Although the fact that she is a true sorcerer and almost nobody else does sort of imply to me that she already is, but then again, who knows? But anyway, poppies.
Yeah, give me one sec. Puppies.
You have no real power.
That's why I need you.
Don't let her get away! This wicked witch.
Okay, yeah, I vaguely remembered something about how the wizards, again, air quote wizards, plan is to use the power of a true sorcerer to compensate for his lack of actual magic, and essentially use her as a battery for his own shit, or at the very least treat her as a slave and underling, and that's what causes her to take the final leap onto the broomstick, so to speak. And that's why the song that everyone and their mother knows about Wicked is Defying Gravity, because she feels trapped under the weight of expectation, and so she decides, fuck it, I'ma do my own thing. and tragic villainy ensues. Anyway, poppies.
Alright. Again, it all looks visually appealing. You know?
Yes, the money is very clearly on display, and so is the passion. And my God, do we need this? I still think that
Poppies.
Joker 2 will probably be the best musical of the year, but I will hold my breath. Poppy.
Poppies.
Poppy.
Don't be afraid.
I'm not afraid.
So, I will say with this trailer, you are kind of just getting the full movie here. So, if that's my only critique of it, then that's.
Well, this is also only a teaser trailer for part 1.
No, it's it's the official. It's not a teaser trailer. It's an official trailer.
But in any case, it's only for part 1 because they realized that in order to make a movie on Wicked, they would have to make like a 5-hour movie, so they split it into 2 halves. And I believe, again, don't quote me, but I believe Defying Gravity actually does only show up around the midpoint of the story. The other half being the "fuck it, I'm gonna burn it all down" half of the story. So that seems to be where this is going. We're gonna get Elphaba going to school, getting her orientation, so to speak, hanging out with Glinda, forming a bond with Glinda, getting recruited by the wizard, realizing the wizard is both a hack and an abusive asshole who wants to use her for her power, decides, fuck it, I'm gonna do my own thing, and then tragic villainy ensues and she decides, fuck it, I'm gonna burn it all down. So, yeah, this is just the first half of the story.
Poppies?
Poppies. Yep.
It's the wizard who should be afraid of me.
Thanksgiving.
Yep. Only a month after the other great musical from this year, hopefully. Joker 2. Still gotta say I'm rooting for Joker 2 slightly over this. Just because I'm reasonably sure that Wicked has the potential to be good. And that everyone and their mother put all their heart and soul into this to make it good. But at the same time, it is also a much more conventional, like, this is musical movie on easiest possible mode. I find Todd Phillips turning Mad Love into a like old Hollywood musical to be slightly more impressive. Not to mention, I want him to beat the haters again and for everyone to be salty, because that's always nice. Schadenfreude is nice. So I will gladly say that both of these are good in the event that they are good. Still kind of hoping that Joker 2 wins the day as far as musical movies are concerned, though. Anyway, next thing on the agenda.
Give me a second. God damn it.
Be warned. It's intense.
Sorry,
Trailer for the trailer.
sorry. No, it's just, oh, fucking stupid computer bullshit.
Hmm.
Alright, so yeah, this Beetlejuice 2 trailer. I don't think I have anything preamble, so.
Okay. And, well, we were back. And now we are not. And now we are again.
Okay. Hello.
Huzzah. Technical difficulties averted. Knock on wood.
Alright. Present. Alright. So yeah, Beetlejuice 2 trailer. I don't really have a preamble for it. Dalton?
Nope. I'm just hoping that the first third of this won't be as dull as the first one. And that we would jump right into the cool shit.
Is there?
I mean,
Yeah.
the obvious one is just Beetlejuice.
I'm not saying that. I'm not summoning that bastard.
Right, but as long as there are gaps between the utterances, we should be fine.
Well, okay, but one of us has to say it, and since you already said it, I have to say it now.
Okay, but it has to be spoken 3 times unbroken by one person for it to actually work. Or
Okay,
2
you already
people
said it.
saying it at the same.
All right, I'm just. Shall we?
We shall Beetlejuice.
Here's a preview. Be warned. It's intense. Can't believe.
Well, I love the rendition of Deo. Obviously, it's creepy, which.
Yep.
I was gonna say something. God damn it. No, I don't have it. God damn it, I lost my train of thought. It'll come back to me. Shall we? Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice.
Grandpa's dead.
Death is hard.
Yeah, sometimes I think life is harder.
When I was a teenager, a trickster demon terrorized our entire family and tried to force me to marry him.
This
Aesthetically,
This is an unexpected turn, but I kind of like it. They're playing it very seriously, almost like Lydia is the survivor of a horror movie. I enjoy that. That's not a creative choice that I would have seen coming, but damn. If this is the spin on the sequel where like we see sort of the, because the first Beetlejuice was rather lighthearted for all of the macabre in it. So seeing kind of the more like, I hate this word, but grounded responses to even something that ostensibly whimsical, is an interesting move. That being said, I will say that I know Beetlejuice is classified as an actual demon and everything, but as far as trickster demons go in pop culture, now I'm just imagining Alistair beating the shit out of Beetlejuice as a joke.
You go.
Because BJ doesn't seem BJ actually doesn't seem all that threatening for a demon. Whereas
The impression that
nobody
he was
messes with the radio demon.
I was under the impression he was also a ghost, or not of the living anymore.
That's a good question, because Juno said that BJ used to be her apprentice. Did she not?
Yeah.
Then again, there's no guarantee necessarily that Juno was ever human either.
Also, the fact that he does make magenta. I don't know if this was.
He was on Earth during the Black
she was dead. It
Plague.
showed that she had a throat slit.
Okay, so this is going to give me all sorts of topical and fucking epistemological headaches. I guess BJ is a demon in the same way that Alistair is a demon, i.e. maybe he was once a sinner and went so bad that he's not, he's a demon now.
Human anymore?
Yeah, so like
no
maybe.
Humanity or anything.
Although you're stretching the definition of demon some ways here, Tim. I will vibe on it. But I will abide this. But you're stretching the definition here.
To be fair, I mean, do you accept? I mean, Supernatural did that too.
They also did that. Although they were much worse at it than either Has-Been or Beetlejuice. So, like, they get a lot less. They get a lot less leniency from me.
Anyway, shall we? Also, again, visually, it's actually really good. It's nice. Yeah.
I mean, it's Tim Burton. Unless he's entirely phoning it in, there's going to be some visual spectacle to be held.
Fair enough.
So,
shall we?
We shall Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice. Yeah.
Yes.
I believed he was gone forever until you found this in the attic.
Ew. Who's Beetlejuice?
Don't ever say that name.
Beetlejuice.
No, Astrid! I am serious. If you say his name 3 times, he will appear.
This little girl needs to be shot. She's she's doing the horror movie protagonist thing of someone is very clearly telling me not to do a thing, and I just want to do it because reasons now. This little girl deserves to be shot, is what I'm saying.
Giant Turtle, then you have Zeech and Bill Cipher behind Alistair saying, you call yourself a trickster demon. Maybe Discord too, if you stretch the definition.
Honestly, I think Alistair and Bill Cipher would be drinking buddies. Zeech is a god, so I think he would be insulted if you even tried to lower him to the status of demon.
Well, I mean, chaos gods. Let's.
Yeah. So demonic in the like malefic sense, sure, but like in terms of like epistemologically and power scaling wise, I think, especially given that all entities in the warp are called demons, regardless of how powerful they are, I think Zeech might be personally offended if you lowered him to the status of demon. Granted, Mr. I change everything for the lulz can get fucked, and I don't respect him at all, so I probably would call him a demon just for shits and gigs, Mr. I am the embodiment of entropy. Go fuck yourself.
Anyway, I don't really have anything else to say, so shall we Beetlejuice?
We shall Beetlejuice.
Okay.
Beetlejuice.
The juice is loose.
I am gonna make you so happy.
The living. The dead.
Yeah, this I'll be fully honest. It does kind of feel like Tim Burton's kind of hitting resurgence.
Yeah, I think what it's been is he just hasn't had the passion for his last few projects. So maybe he's just been off his game.
I would say like one of his last good ones was it was mostly in stop motion. He was actually really putting a lot of effort in. The last one I remember was Frankenweenie.
Frankenweenie was pretty good. Big Eyes wasn't terrible, but it seemed rather phoned in. And the less said about the Dumbo remake, the better.
The what?
The Dumbo remake.
Oh, I didn't know. Oh, he made that. I didn't know that.
He did that, and he wanted to make like a 20-minute sequence out of the pink elephant scene, and they wouldn't let him. So he was forced to reduce it to the one like 5-second scene we got. Which
funny enough, I actually am thinking about this. I think I showed it on here once when I mentioned it long ago, but Robot Chicken did a skit with Dumbo doing the Joker smile from like Todd Phillips' Joker, where like Dumbo was like grabbing his face and like making him smile, and then like the crying, laughing maniacally thing.
Yeah,
and it kind of makes me think if Tim Burton is able to make that, felt like very Tim Burton-esque. I guess I could say what I'm trying to say. But yeah, no, aesthetically this looks awesome, and I'm loving the vibe of it. It's darker for sure.
Yeah, and again, I like the concept of, the whimsical events of Beetlejuice kind of seen from the inside rather than the outside, and almost treating it like a more serious horror movie. It reminds me a little bit of what the 2017 Power Rangers movie kind of tried to do, and only spent half the movie doing, because it also was trying to be a remake of The Breakfast Club, also kind of.
See, here's the issue. Okay, I'm sorry. Sidebar here regarding the Power Rangers 2017 thing. Scenes that would have helped were cut out. Like, there are full deleted scenes that honestly would have helped the movie. a lot.
Hollywood constantly shoots itself in the foot by deleting scenes that are not necessary whatsoever to be deleted. I swear to fucking God.
I mean, sometimes it works, but
I mean sometimes, but a lot of times all it results in is scenes that would have made the movie better being left on the cutting room floor because people were worried, I guess, about time constraints.
Or the really crappy movies that honestly could have been way better if entire sequences, like recent Marvel movies or even superhero movies in general, like had full parts of their movies cut out.
Full plot segments cut out, yeah.
Yeah.
The first Doctor Strange movie had that problem bad. Like, so many of the best scenes in that movie aren't in that movie because they got cut. And as a result, the movie feels unfinished.
Right. But what I was going to say was Power Rangers 2017. I know you always bring it up with, like, the action and everything and how it's also trying to be a Breakfast Club. I think it could have worked, but the issue with it was they didn't find a way to properly blend them together, if that makes sense.
They didn't commit hard enough, I think.
Yeah.
They should have just gone balls to the wall in both directions and double take the hindmost.
Also, I remember seeing someone write this like the main lead technically didn't have any problems.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, you know what I mean? Like, the video I'd watched of it was saying like Zach or like his kind of character and his thing could have been Jason's more so, or Zach could have been the main character or something like that.
Yeah, again, decisions. Both halves of the Power Rangers movie I thought were decent. It's just that, it's just that they never fully committed to either of them, and as a result, it just sort of fell to pieces. Also, I'm not the sort of person who complains about product placement, mind you. I do not. Like, to me, product placement usually just makes the world feel more lived in or more relatable in a sense.
I think the issue that comes with product placement when it's too emphasized,
But literally, Goldar was buried under a Krispy Kreme.
No, the Zeo Crystal, not Goldar. The Zeo Crystal.
Right, but in any case, buried under a Krispy Kreme. That is, like, even I have to look. Even I, who don't normally mind product placement, have to go. Damn, I know movies are expensive, but did you have to be quite so overt with that?
All right. Anyway.
Beetlejuice.
Shall we?
Yeah. Can they coexist?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're here to find out.
Or is Beetlejuice?
Where's me?
Okay, question. Speaking of the first movie, what happened to the ghost couple that were essentially acting as Lydia's guardian angels?
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
Because you would think that, because she seemed like she had been completely vibing with them at least. So like, you'd think they would still be around if for no other reason than to look after her.
They might have moved on.
Unless we're going with the unfinished business model of ghosting, whereby once they fulfilled their goal of protecting her into adulthood, they crossed over again.
To be fair, the actors who played them, well, I mean, we all know with Alec Baldwin.
Yes, yeah.
And Gina Davis, I don't think she's really been anything as of late. So, plus they would look a lot different, also.
Yeah, but then again, there's also de-aging and CG, so I'm just saying it could have been done, especially because you don't need them to look 100% realistic because Ghost.
Right.
But I'm guessing that Lydia essentially filled the void in their lives of wanting to have a child and raise a child together, and once Lydia had grown into adulthood, they might have crossed over, assuming we're going off of the unfinished business model. I don't particularly like the unfinished business model because I feel like it is unnecessarily cruel to the Ghost. Like this, it's similar to the reason why I have a problem with the way they handled Angel the first time he went bad in Buffy. Like the second you feel a moment of true happiness, you'll go evil again. Or in Ghost case, the second you feel satisfied, you just stop being. That's such a raw deal for the Ghost.
Okay, so I was wrong about Gina Davis. She has been in stuff a lot, actually. Just relatively not recently. Apparently,
Yes,
she was in
DT,
something.
Yes. I'm too tired to roll my eyes, DT, but I want it known that if I had the energy to roll my eyes, I would be rolling them at you right now.
Also, just fun fact, just because I was considering doing this, because I watched Channel Awesome's Fanscription series constantly, because I'll be honest, that's probably the only thing I like about that channel. Nothing against everything else. It's just, I didn't grow up with that, so I didn't have it.
You didn't. You came in even after I did, and even when I got there, it was after. I came in just after To Boldly Flee came out, and I think the first chronologically the first video I watched in terms of recency was the Son of the Mask review and or the Cat in the Hat review. So I came in right around that period. So I was able to backtrack and get into all the lore and the expanded crossovers and so on. But by the time you would have been aware of Channel Awesome, it was reduced back to just Doug, Malcolm, and Tamara mostly, and sometimes Walter. I like Walter.
So
He's cool. I wish he would do his own thing, honestly.
So I watched the Fanscription stuff where they did what if Tim Burton directed Batman Forever or Batman and Robin. All really good stuff, by the way. It was really cool. I liked it. And it was making me think. I was honestly, I hope one day they do it, just because I want to see what their idea of a Tim Burton directed Superman movie would be. Because in the '90s, Tim Burton was lined up to make a Superman movie called Superman Lives, but it went through so much production hell, and this asshole producer kept doing bullshit that constantly stifled it. There were ideas I liked from all the scripts I had seen of it, even the I know the controversy thing of Nick Cage being Superman, which Dalton and I have discussed before. I think it might have been fine given the time period. But
I love Nick Cage, but I don't think that was ever in the cards. I'm glad that got canceled because I think it would be almost as cringe making as Batman and Robin ended up being.
But to be fair, again, studio was kind of fucking up there a lot. So
he did do a good job as Johnny Blaze. I will give that to him. I will give it to him that is who I picture now whenever I picture Johnny Blaze. So, but even so, I don't think Superman was ever quite in the cards for him.
But Gina Davis, who played what was her name again? In Beetlejuice.
Miranda? No.
Hold on.
Delia. Delia Deets.
I thought that was.
Oh, that's the mother I'm thinking of. Fuck. What were the couples? What was the
No,
couple's
that.
surnames? I can't remember. The
Hold
couples were
on.
the
Looking it
couple
up.
was the least interesting part of that movie. I'm sorry.
Looking it up. Give me a second. Oh. Barbara.
Barbara and
Hold on. Oh, she was also in The Fly with Jeff Goldblum.
the Jeff Goldblum remake. Cool.
Barbara and Adam.
Barbara and Adam.
No surname.
Oh, they didn't give one? I could have sworn they gave one.
Okay, some motherfucker outside will not stop firing off fireworks.
Assuming they're fireworks.
No, they're fireworks. I know the difference between a gunshot and a bottle rocket.
Oh, that's right. You live in Indiana's answer to the slums. I'm not getting any more specific than that.
Yeah, Gina Davis would have been my pick for a 90s Lois Lane in a Superman movie directed by Tim Burton.
Again, I can't, like, I love Tim Burton, but his sensibilities don't vibe with Superman at all, I don't think.
I think it could work. Again, I'd say take some inspiration from like Mars Attacks more so than Batman.
Well, no, I guess he did do a good job, like, skewering suburbia in the movies where he skewers suburbia, so he can do bright and colorful. My issue with him is he doesn't seem to be interested in sustaining bright and colorful, and dark whimsy is very much his thing, and dark whimsy doesn't lend itself to Superman.
I think whimsy could. Again, I think if anything,
whimsy maybe, but
hold on. Can I? I'm sorry. May I finish my point?
Sorry.
I think you would have to have a writer or some other creative person to help balance him out so that he could do it. Because with the aesthetic of Gotham, I do think he can make a very interesting Metropolis. While, yes, I'm aware he did Dark Deco with Gotham for the Batman movies, it's still technically Art Deco, just Gothified, which, is Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Again, I think there just needs to be a creative team that can push him and tell him when they don't treat him like a god, just a bunch of yes men, because then you have the prequel problem with George Lucas.
Yeah, the problem is Tim Burton has always had a very rebellious spirit that he never really grew out of, and the more people tell him, no, dude, you actually have to conform this time, the more he's gonna want to Burton it up.
To be fair, Superman is weird. Like, legitimately, look at the comics up until the 90s.
Yeah. No, if Tim Burton was to go full Mixius Pitling or something, then I could see it. But like, the problem is the only time he portrays the kind of mom baseball apple pie suburbia type thing is in order to either make fun of it or make it the villain. And there again, you have the problem of a creative who is more sympathetic to the villains of Superman, or potentially more sympathetic to the villains of Superman than Superman himself. Because the thing is, sincerity is very much the heart and soul of the character. And Tim Burton doesn't see Suburbia as sincere or anything to aspire to. He sees Suburbia as essentially the oppression of the norm against the weird. And I just don't like his entire like interviews, articles he's written, books he's written, everything I know about his life and backstory. It screams if he portrays Suburbia, he's going to do it, or if he portrays the kind of classic Americana that is the heart and soul of Superman, he's going to do it to either make fun of it or make it the villain, because that's what he always does with it. And I just don't see any way that he can't let that go, because he's still and this is a truth that I love about Tim Burton, but it is exactly why he shouldn't be doing a Superman movie. He is still now, just like he was when he was a child, the weird goth kid that all of the suburbanites made fun of or thought was weird or creepy.
All right,
And
he
has a chip on his shoulder about it that has been his essentially artistic inspiration for the last 40 years. And that's good if you want a movie that skewers suburbia and normality and Americana. But if you want a movie that is in favor of those things, keep Timeo as far away from it as you possibly can.
But, okay, if nothing else, with all the behind-the-scenes stuff we'd seen, like concept art of Krypton, the design of the Superman costume, things like that, the aesthetic of Tim Burton worked kind of well for Superman. I think we can both agree on that, at least.
I don't know if he has the right color palette for it. It's perfect for Batman. Would be odd for Superman.
Okay. I'm talking about the designs, not the color palette.
I don't remember the design. The designs never stuck with me.
To be fair, you were not a big Superman fan until we met, so.
This is also true.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, if you had pitched this to me before you kind of converted me to the side of Superman, I would want to see Tim Burton Superman just so that he could skewer the mom baseball apple pie Americana stuff. But
okay,
now kind of realizing the importance of those things, it would be bad to let Tim do that.
Fair enough. Completely fair. At the very least, I feel someone that has either worked with Tim Burton or God damn it, yeah, I would say at least, if nothing else, maybe someone who has worked with Tim Burton.
That's the question. Who has a similar level of style chops to Tim Burton, but is sort of the anti-Tim Burton?
I have two ideas came in mind. I don't remember their names, but the guy who did the Addams Family movies, because it wasn't Tim Burton, but he's Tim Burton-like, or the actual director of A Nightmare Before Christmas.
See, that's. I mean, they have less baggage as far as the chip on the shoulder is concerned, but I still don't think it would be hard to have somebody go
Well, it's either that or
stylized 180 is the thing.
Well, it's either that or Joe Johnston.
Guy who did Rocketeer and Captain America 1?
Yep.
Yeah, he would probably be my pick. Either that, like Wes Anderson would never quote unquote lower himself to a Superman to a superhero movie. But I could see Wes Anderson being the, you know, anti Tim Burton Americana and Suburbia are good
I don't know if he would.
kind of person.
I don't know if he's ever been asked if he would do like.
He hates them. He's one of those.
He
considers them beneath them.
The motherfuckers worked on animation, which arguably is regarded lower as a medium of film.
And Steven Spielberg made his bones making family-oriented fantasy movies, but superhero movies are a bridge too far. Scorsese made his bones stylizing, you know, inner city mafia shit, and yet he thinks that superhero movies, which are born from literally the exact same sort of pulp mystery man roots as mafia movies, are a bridge too far, etc., and so on. The hypocrisy of this chip on the shoulder of all old guard film snobs knows no bounds. We've been over this so many times.
And I think we've had this discussion before, and don't worry, we'll get back to the trailer, but the weird thing about like the old guard is I think they've forgotten what it was like to be young and hungry.
Yes, definitely. I could not conceivably agree more. I think I put it pretty much exactly that way before.
Because ultimately, the thing that really revolves around it is, well, basically, it always revolves around the genre of things, you know. And well, superheroes, we've had this same discussion before regarding this topic, but you know, superhero genre envelops a lot of genres, or all the genres, basically.
Yeah, it's basically take the best things about every other genre, turn them up to an 11, and put them in the same universe.
Effectively, didn't they, like the older, like the famous ones, you know, Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, I don't know if I'd say
Ford Coppola, George Lucas, yada yada yada.
I don't know if I don't want to put George Lucas in there because from what I haven't looked into it because I don't really care, but I have not heard him talk crap about superhero movies.
No, I don't think I think he has mostly stayed out of it. Then again, George Lucas has an ego the size of a building, so who knows?
But they literally made like genre films. Well,
they did.
You know, Steven Spielberg and
Scorsese. Yeah, one made family-oriented fantasy movies. The other made mafia movies. And yet, superhero movies are a bridge too far because they're too set in their ways and addicted to the norms of how things should be done, quote unquote.
So they forgot that they were the newcomers before they hit it big, and that newcomers are coming in through this genre, which
honestly, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's weird how they don't recognize the repeating cycle here, and instead of being there when they didn't have anyone for the new guys.
Yeah, instead of looking at the new generation and seeing a mirror of the old, they became exactly what they hated. Honestly, I think it has to do with the baby boomers and the Gen Xers, at least a large sum of them. It's similar to the Bill Maher video we reacted to, where mommy and daddy told me that comic books were kid stuff, and I took it to heart for some reason. Even though mommy and daddy also told me I shouldn't follow my artistic dreams, and I told them to go fuck themselves. Like, it just seems to me that they can't make that. It's cognitive dissonance is what it is. They can't follow the logic chain to its logical conclusion, because if they did, it would be obvious that they were wrong. So they have to put all of these hurdles in their way of thinking, where it's like, sure, mom and dad were wrong about me being an artist, or wrong about me being a director, or wrong about me being an actor, or whatever, but they were right about superheroes or something. Like, that is the one thing that they were right about, and and the adage of "fuck you, I'm gonna do what I want" shouldn't apply to for some reason.
Anyway,
It's
shall
stupid. Yeah, Beetlejuice.
we?
Beetlejuice!
Beetlejuice!
Feel free to express yourself. Don't be afraid.
You're a figment of my imagination.
Really? Is this a figment of your imagination?
So, I'm gonna be honest. Michael Keaton does not seem to be phoning it in with Beetlejuice.
No, he slid right back into the role like it was fucking a glove.
I'm just pointing that out. I'm sorry. I'm pointing that out.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm pointing that out because in the Flash movie, it did kind of seem. Not that he was phoning it in per se, because I think he had some good moments in there, but
I think he was a little bit heartbroken. I think he realized the kind of movie he was in, and he kind of hated it.
Yeah.
Which this also might go a certain way to explain why Tim seems to be back on his game as well. Maybe it is a matter of just like Tim and Johnny vibed, Tim Burton and Johnny Depp. Maybe getting to see Michael Keaton again and work with Michael Keaton again, like, dusted off what little remaining spark of genius Tim Burton has. Maybe. Or at least I can but hope. Like, I am willing to be optimistic about this. Please don't let me down, guys. Like, yes, I occasionally poo-poo the fact that the first third of Beetlejuice is dull as shit, but it doesn't mean that I dislike the movie or that I want bad things for it. It's just that I wish that you had found a better way of introducing the concept. Everything else about that movie is awesome. Anyway, Beetlejuice.
Yeah, one sec. September 6th.
It seems like it might be a little early, but then again, I think it's to beat the Halloween rush, probably. Like, they didn't want to put it in the Halloween rush because otherwise all the other Halloween movies would crush it. But they want it to be close enough to Halloween to kind of be the start of the Halloween season, maybe, question mark. Because obviously everyone and their mother would prefer if this was in October. But my guess is they wanted to get just enough distance between the movie and Halloween so that it could stay in theaters until Halloween, effectively. Probably. That's my theory anyway. Otherwise, the studio that's releasing this is dumb as shit, and they should have known well enough to put it in October.
Warner Brothers.
But I'm willing to give them at least the tiniest fraction of benefit of the doubt. Heaven knows why Warner Brothers hasn't deserved it for a long time. But I'm willing to give them the tiniest bit of benefit of the doubt and say they're being strategic and releasing it just before the Halloween rush so that it can play all throughout Halloween, rather than simply being too stupid to realize they should put a Beetlejuice movie in October.
Alright. Also, for the love of God, can people stop putting Christmas before, like, start trying to celebrate Christmas in fucking October?
Yeah, no. October belongs to Halloween. It is the October country, and that is that. So
Also,
I don't want to see anything Christmas oriented until like after Thanksgiving. Then after Thanksgiving, Like from December to January, it should be all Christmas all the time. But
I mean, I'm a little lenient in November. I mean, yeah, I will like Thanksgiving. To be fair, it's pretty much just an American holiday at this point.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's always been.
I agree. I agree with you. I'm a little bit more lenient about if it's closer to Thanksgiving, especially because Thanksgiving tends to move. But,
Jesus, dude, you remember last year? Like, just how, like, we did not feel any Halloween spirit until like days before Halloween itself.
Yeah, I really hope it's not that. I really hope it's not that way this year.
I don't want that. I do not want that, like, at all.
Like normally, and I hope I'm back on point this year. Normally, October 1st, I am so fucking ready.
Yeah, it took us weeks to like fully get into it. I mean,
getting the vibe, yeah.
I don't get it. Anyway, so last trailer, which was something I wanted to cover, just because I thought it looked fun and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
This is Ultraman Rising trailer. That's going to be on Netflix. It's like a movie. Mainly because, well, we don't talk a lot of Tokusatsu or Super Sentai or whatever. We don't really talk that much. And for those who don't know, Ultraman is, I guess it would be the granddaddy of Tokusatsu, which is like, you know, the costumed spandex wearing heroes that fight giant monsters and stuff.
Yeah, Japanese superheroes, more or less.
Yeah.
Although there's also a independent comic character called Ultraman. I almost thought that was that this was about that rather than the Tokusatsu version. I should have known better.
Yeah. There's also DC Earth 3 Ultraman, you know, evil Superman.
Yeah, the Crime Syndicate version. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Ultraman was a character. I think it was the 60s, like mid to late 60s that Ultraman was created. Because Super Sentai has been around since like the 70s, which was inspired by Ultraman.
Without Ultraman, we would have no Power Rangers. So if for no other reason than that, we should be thankful to Ultraman for existing.
Well, there was also that Japanese adaptation of Spider-Man, or Spud-Man, I think was how you pronounce it.
The one with the demon mech?
Yeah. Which also helped establish Tokusatsu. So it's kind of a mixture of both.
I love how weird Japan is sometimes. Like,
yeah.
Speaking of things that just go balls to the wall in all directions, I love Japan. Never stop being weird as shit.
To get on a kind of darker note, I think the only reason they're weird like that is because we bombed the hell out of them twice.
Yeah, the nuclear reactant is definitely a thing. Which, I mean, again, never stop being weird, Japan. I love you. Sorry about the bomb.
And they bombed us first, unprovoked. So
okay, but they bombed us with gunpowder bombs. We bombed them with nuke bombs.
Hey, they started something. We finish it. That's kind of the history of America. Let's be honest.
In fairness, it was Germany that started things. Japan just sort of showed up halfway through and went, "Hey, you need a hand there, Germany."
Yeah. So either way, I mean, obviously, I am not condoning the countless lives that were lost for just. Yeah, I'm not.
But silver lining, we get the weirdest shit things that Japan gives us.
Well, we got anime after World War II, so.
Yeah, we got Gojira, we got and the entire universe thereof.
There are a lot of factors on why Japan joined the Axis. Yes. I think it was because they were not respected in the aid during World War I or the Great War.
Also, at the time, they were an imperial power and they wanted to conquer shit. Which, I mean, show me a culture that has never done that, and I will show you a culture that hasn't gone anywhere.
Yeah, that's a fair point, Giant Turtle.
Every culture has their conquering phase. It's part of growing up as a country, so to speak.
But either way, so yeah, this is like another adaptation of Ultraman, and there have been a few in the recent decades. There was actually an anime that came out, though they weren't like giant monsters. Almost, I would say it was almost Power Ranger like. From what I remember of seeing of it. There's like a 3D.
Well, I mean, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where? All right. But yeah, this is another version of Ultraman. To be fair, I am always so confused about the lore of Ultraman because it never really seems.
I've never delved. Like, I know of Ultraman. He's never clicked with me. Like, I actually know slightly more about the Guyver of all things than Ultraman.
Oh, dude, I remember Guyver. Like, I remember watching, the movies. I had the second movie, the sequel, Dark Hero on VHS, which is how I learned about it first.
Not to be confused with MacGyver, which is a completely different thing.
Oh, yeah,
also in a different way.
Honestly, I think someone explained it. Like, someone did a review of that movie, like the two movies, or just Guyver in general. It was like, it's R-rated Power Rangers.
DT, I disagree with you slightly because there's such a thing as an escalation. Like, for example, if you're engaged in fisticuffs with someone and all of a sudden they pull a gun, that is an escalation, and they should at least be somewhat accountable to that. And going from Pearl Harbor style bombings to the first two nukes ever to be manufactured successfully down upon two of your major cities. That is, in my mind, that is equivalent to engaging in hand-to-hand combat with someone and all of a sudden they pull a gun. So,
to be fair, that wasn't overnight. Those two events were like years apart, weren't they?
No, but yes, but you know what I'm saying. We developed a whole new means of fuck youing them, mostly because of Pearl Harbor. So,
okay,
yeah,
guys, I'm gonna
it's an escalation thing.
Okay, look, I'm just gonna call it on this kind of conversation. If you Dalton, if you and Giant Turtle want to have this conversation later, just because I know you two can talk for hours on end about this stuff. I would like us to watch something that is fun and cool, just so we can end the night on something positive. All right. Again, I don't know much about Ultraman lore either, which I feel kind of bad about. So I don't know if there would be a food equivalent for this.
I mean, because it's Japanese, I'm tempted to go sushi, but that seems slightly insensitive to them.
I was going to say that coming from a white guy in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, basically a hillbilly, it would come off as very, what's the word? Racist?
I will grant you cultural insensitivity, and that's all you're getting. I'm willing to concede that it might be culturally insensitive. I am unwilling to say that it is racist, because I freaking love Japan and their culture. So culturally insensitive, it may be. Culturally insensitive, it may be. Racist, no.
Okay. It might not be food related, but I still think it is somewhat relevant to this. Red Sun, given their flag of Japan.
And yet, going with sushi was racist.
What? I'm acknowledging their flag. It's literally their flag, the red sun on the white banner. How is that? How is that?
And sushi is the main culinary advancement that Japan gifted the world, but it would be just as racist to default to the country because it has nothing to do with the specific franchise of Ultraman. That'd be like if they were reacting to an American movie and all they could come up with was apple pie or baseball or something like that.
Wait, what about wasabi?
You know what? That works. Wasabi.
Yeah.
Wasabi is fine.
I feel like there is something with bananas that is like well known, but I can't think of it.
I can't think of it either, and I am 3 days in the hole of being too tired to spend any more brain power parsing this. So there's that.
All right, so wasabi.
Wasabi.
Yeah.
Dad, did you ever worry that your power wasn't enough? Every single day. The world needs you to become something more. It's actually kind of cool fighting monsters. It's just, I'm not very good.
Is this a fan film, or is this actually being released by a major studio of some description?
Well, it's gonna appear on Netflix, so
Okay, so it's a Netflix thing. Good. Because the way you were describing it, it made it sound like a fan film, and yet this is very obviously not one of those. Not saying that you couldn't do something like this in a fan film. It doesn't.
Wait,
It doesn't
how did
have
I
any
just-
of the tells of a fan film.
how did I? No, I said that it was from Netflix.
I don't think you ever mentioned
No, I
either on Thursday or in this stream until just now.
to be fair, you're also like super tired, so you might not have actually listened or heard me.
This is also true.
Oh yeah,
I was dead tired on Thursday, and then I spent 3 days partying up like it was $15.99. So
$15.99
because SEA, Society for Creative Anachronism, Ren Fair type shit.
You were saying things I'm a city boy. I have no idea what you're talking about.
The ordinary meme is party like it's 1999, but the SEA is rooted in medieval shit. Hence,
I have no idea. Again, party like it's 1999. I am too young to know what that means.
It was a meme in the late 90s and early 2000s that whenever someone was about to use a Zoomerism that you might actually get, whenever someone was about to get lit at a party, they would say, "Let's party like it's 1999."
Yeah,
So
that's before me too.
So instead, because the SEA is rooted in all sorts of medieval Renaissance reenactment type shit, I went with $15.99. Hence the meme. I realize the meme might be a little older than you, but it is an established meme. This is the point where I shake my fist at the sky and yell about you being a whippersnapper. Because you should know your memes, even if they are ancient memes. The ancient memes are the dankest memes, don't you know?
I've also never heard of Get Lit.
That is a Zoomerism, so that might just be you being out of touch with your own generation. Granted, your own generation are for the most part a bunch of twits, so that probably is a good thing.
Yeah, but yeah, I like I like the look and aesthetic of like the whole movie. So far, it's very colorful, obviously, but it's also visually striking. I wouldn't say it's Spider-Verse vibes, obviously, because it's not doing that very choppy animation. It's very fluid and very yeah, it looks like they're animating the whole sequence and not by twos, I believe is what it was. Because I'm so used to a lot of like animated things these days trying to do the whole Spider-Verse look. Which, I'm not saying it's bad or anything. It's just there can be an oversaturation of that specific style.
The trend is definitely picking up steam because the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles did it. So did Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. So did Wish try to do it and utterly completely fucking fail to do it. But yeah.
Also, I'm sorry, another sidebar here. I've looked, apparently what their original plans for the movie were far better than what we got.
Yeah, that seems to be another perennial problem of modern day entertainment. Not only are they guilty of almost always publishing the first draft, but there are so many examples of people who knew what the right answer was, and then they talked themselves out of it.
Yeah,
so
for the
in some ways the workshopping ends up almost going backwards, where they have the right idea and then someone shoots it down enough times that they change it and then it becomes worse instead of better.
Yeah, because apparently in the original, like one of the original ideas for Wish, or supposed to be something, it could have been another name, I think what it's called, but there was going to be a villainous duo, like a villainous couple. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is not something I think I've ever seen in Disney.
In Disney, no. In other media, yes.
Depending on your opinion, good or not is up for interpretation, I suppose.
Yep.
That would have been interesting.
It would, again. It's not that they didn't do workshopping. It's the workshopping in Hollywood recently has very often backfired and made the concept worse rather than better. Reminds me of how Jack Schaefer.
I also want to point out with
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just trying to get back to the trailer. I also like how it's not trying to be like ultra realistic either, because I honestly kind of get like a Pixar vibe from the designs and things.
A little bit, yeah. Reminds me of that Raya and the Last Dragon movie from a couple of years ago, actually. Or is it Raya and the Last Dragon? Either way, that one.
I don't know. I haven't paid attention to Disney movies since like Frozen.
When was the last Disney movie I actually paid attention to?
And funny enough, that was only because my grandmother bought that movie for me.
Aww. I do remember liking Tangled when it came out.
Oh yeah, no, that was a good movie. I like that movie. Frozen, yep. I think I've made this before. It's like nothing against the actual story itself. It's one of those movies or like one of those things like, because this is a thing about me. I get so turned off when there is just like this massive like, yeah.
Well, I don't know,
just
Brainstormer.
Like, I don't know.
Maybe you should let it go. But tish.
One day, when we meet, I might try to kill you.
I know. And I will probably deserve it. But there's also a good chance I'll be turned on by it. So.
Why you gotta make things weird, man?
Because that is the correct response when someone threatens you with physical violence. You just throw it back in their face with kink. It almost always diffuses things. Because then it ends up taking the power away from the person threatening you with violence. and
Oh,
make them be on the back foot, so to speak.
Okay, Don, I think that means you need to stop suggesting Dresden Files so much. Make it a rare thing. I mean, he doesn't often. It's on my list. Again, I got a lot of things I gotta like read and do, and the reading thing. I'm still reading it. I haven't made much of a dent yet. I'm gonna be fully honest, Randall. My weeks have been kind of hectic and full of shit last few weeks. So
he's going through some personal stuff, or at least someone in his family is going through some personal stuff.
It's
kind of being draining.
Yeah, it's a lot. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to read Worm a lot as of yet. Although I am still enjoying it. It is taking me a lot longer than I expected it would. So.
Well, but that's the thing, Dragon Turtle. If you can make the person threatening you so uncomfortable / confused, or maybe even imply that you like it, then they start being creeped out by you, and therefore the power dynamics in the conversation have shifted.
Right. Thank you, Dragon Turtle. Everything. No, I'm not gonna say anything because I don't want to jinx myself. But I appreciate that. I think I know what. I think I've seen that comic before. Actually, although I don't know if it was a princess or was it princess?
I haven't seen the thing you guys are referencing. I've seen a lot of things that end with you made it weird and the situation de-escalating. But
although the comic I remember most with the like little comic I remember seeing most with like a dragon and a princess is the dragon trying to wingman a princess by like scaring off unwanted knights that have come to save her. Like they're like pals or something.
This is going to be a stupid question, and I should have asked this many, many times before, DT. But what does IRC mean? What does the acronym stand for? I have absolutely no idea. And you always use it, and I'm very confused by it. The other ones I can hazard a guess when you use the random abbreviations, but IRC has no translation in my head as yet.
If I recall correctly.
So, wait, shouldn't there be two I's then?
Yeah, IIRC. Yeah, it's IIRC in.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, I don't usually see the second I. That was my problem. My brain could not come up with a combination of words that means.
To be fair, you have terrible eyesight.
This is also true, and mostly because of optic nerve damage. So there's that.
Yeah. I think I know which one you're talking about. With Knight runs off the dragon girl and not the princess. All right. Okay, let's continue with this. Also, the design of like the human characters remind me of those images of like what if Pixar did Spider-Man like an animated film. I don't know if that was an actual thing or just someone made that just as like a fan thing. But some of this kind of reminds me of that.
You know, DT,
Anyway.
given the orthodox nature of Israel, I'm sure that is probably a thing.
All right. Wasabi. That's right. Yep.
Wasabi. Wasabi was what we went with.
Yeah.
Good at it.
Come on, seriously? Oh my god.
Not good.
Retrieve the package. Yes, sir.
Again, this all looks really good. Like, I know you're not the biggest fan of animation, Dalton, but I can really appreciate like a lot of the work done in here. With like a lot of it, like I think every frame you pause, it's always it looks incredible. You know, like it looks like every still is.
It's not that I'm not a fan of animation. I'm against adapting things that already are predominantly pictures into animation because it is a far less laudable feat to make things that were already pictures move than it is to translate those pictures into a live action medium.
Fair enough.
It's specifically an issue I have with comics. Although I guess anything heavily illustrated would also fit into this somewhere.
Okay. I'm not going to try and argue that just because I know, again, we'll be here for hours if we try to have this discussion.
Again, given that we've had it like 5 times, and DT is an animation supremacist.
I feel like I'm the guy in the middle here for some reason. To be fair, I grew up watching a lot of cartoons. Good ones, not the shit we get these days. The few diamond in the roughs,
I did too, and all that did was make my standards for live action even higher. Because if animation can do what it does, as well as the big ones like X-Men the animated series, Batman the animated, the Paul Dini Bruce Timmverse, the Spawn animation, which I watched recently, that Brainstormer's been pestering me to watch for years now, and like Disney's Gargoyles. Like if that's what can be done in animation, in a world and in a lifetime where we have more technology, more CGI, more ability to translate things from concept to live action than we ever have before, then the standards for live action should be even higher than animation.
Fair enough.
What pisses me off is when live action is lazy and when it makes animation pick up the slack when it shouldn't have to.
That's fair. I do agree with that. Though personally, again, I think I'm with Giant Troll on the fact that I would like the level of quality when live action is done well and good, is put into an animated feature. Not so much. I'm not going to argue the adaptation thing. I'm just speaking in general with like animation.
Specifically with comics, though, we've already mastered the animated movie in regards to comic adaptations. Now the next leap is to actually translate it from animation or from still images to live action. Please. And stop skimping both Marvel and DC. You have more tools than anyone ever has. You have more financial resources than anyone ever has. Put the money into the correct things and put it on the fucking screen, damn you.
Giant Turtle, again, I am going to ask, please, again, if you guys want to have this conversation, I think if we have it right now, we're just going to be going into a circle constantly here, with the back and forth. So again, I will ask that you guys, if you want to continue this conversation, to continue it elsewhere, just so we can get through this. No, you're cool. You're cool. You don't have to say sorry, man. I know how you and Dalton get when you have I'm not going to say direct oppositions in terms of argument. You guys are, I'm going to be fully honest, a lot smarter than me, and you can carry on a conversation and discussion like this for hours.
Yes. I will say one last thing, and then we will actually move from this. You're strawmanning me, DT. What I want is these things to be made as real as they can be made. And you can't really get that by moving from still drawings to moving drawings. you do eventually have to, if the standard is I want this to be made real, then live action is necessarily the end result. And that is my goal whenever I want an adaptation. I want the pictures I see in my head when I read a novel or listen to a novel in audiobook form to be on the screen, to be shown in as real a format as they can be shown, which is generally live action. I want things that I see in my head to be made real. That's the point of being an adaptation. Animation is, to me, the second best option because that is the resort of people who say, this could never be done in live action. And I fucking hate that argument because we have more tools and resources than we ever have, etc. Yeah, moving on.
All right.
I didn't say you were smarter than me, DT. I said you were strawmanning me. You weren't paying attention.
He was talking to me.
Ah.
Yeah. All right. Wasabi?
Yeah.
Ken, she thinks you are her mother.
Hey! It's okay.
No.
What the heck was that?
She has acid reflux.
Babies get.
So Ultraman being a parent to a monster. It's not a bad way to twist the formula, I guess. Plus, the design of the monster is actually pretty cute, to be fair.
I'm sorry. He did it again. He's not getting it. I had DT. That's not a point about realism, because realism is a stylistic choice. What I said was I want it to be translated into being real. I want it to be made real. That doesn't mean dumb it down and make it #realistic. It means scale reality up to meet it. You did it. You missed my point entirely again. Sorry. That's why we use CG to create things in reality that wouldn't otherwise be in reality.
All right.
No, I don't know what you mean. I think you just missed my point again, DT. Moving on.
Well, I was gonna say.
Unless you had more things.
Yeah, I did have a few things. Again, I also just want to point this out again. Most animated movies, specifically ones that use CGI or computer generated, which is most these days. Trying to think here. Right. Sorry. Sorry. I don't know why my brain is fritzing right now.
I think everyone's brain is not operating on optimal cylinders here.
Right. I was gonna mention the color, like the color palette. Saturation. It's really good. Again, I'm so used to this. I got so used to desaturation over the last few years that whenever it's not desaturated, I
Yeah,
wouldn't say that,
whenever someone remembers how to use color properly,
yeah,
it's like, oh, right, there is more light in the color spectrum than just gray and earth tones. Who knew?
well, weirdly enough, I don't see this problem often in animation, mind you.
That's true.
So, but here it's more prominent because I would say there's a bit of an oversaturation with the colors, which I think fits just because it's obviously very exaggerated, very like, well, it's it's effectively a kaiju movie, right?
Well, kaiju meets superhero meets super martial arts bullshit. Japan is so weird and I love it.
Yeah. Also, again, I feel bad that we don't know enough about Ultraman lore that we can't really call anything out on this.
Yeah, that's going on the homework pile right after finding the Wicked audiobook. If I can find it.
I'm also kind of, I don't know if anyone would agree with me on this, but I'm kind of getting Big Hero 6 vibes a bit from
yes, this definitely has Big Hero 6 vibes. Although I think it might be fair to say that Big Hero 6 had Ultraman vibes because Ultraman did come first.
Fair enough.
Not this adaptation of Ultraman, but I mean in terms of stylistically and inspiration.
And obviously, and I feel like I also should specify Big Hero 6 as like not the comic, but the movie that came out. What was it? 2017 or 2016?
I think it was 2016 because it was a while ago now.
And there was a song that came out that was relative. It was Fall Out Boy. That was part of that movie. No, not okay. We were both wrong. 2014.
I was gonna say I thought it was earlier than that, but I assumed you were, because last time we did this, I think I overestimated by like a decade. So I just went with your I went with your estimation because yeah, I could have sworn it was earlier than 2016, but I'm too tired and I'm still running the argument with DT in my head, so I am completely and utterly out of it at this point.
All right. Wasabi?
Wasabi.
Get acid reflux?
Great.
I am not built for this.
How do you do it? Juggle everything. Your job, your kid?
Honestly, it's not easy. They're like little monsters sometimes.
Ultraman! Do your job! I'm doing the best I can!
Again, this always this is like a fun ride, and given that it's given that element of parenting, I think it would hit harder if anyone here was a parent.
This is also true.
I still do think it's going to have that emotional element, obviously.
This is looking very... honestly, with that dialogue, though, it's coming off more as DreamWorks-y rather than Pixar-y, but it does... like, it's in that level of animation quality, which is fucking impressive. I don't know I don't know which animation studio, if any, worked on this for Netflix, but whichever one they did, they should use more. Then again, Netflix has usually been pretty good with their original animation stuff, because like Troll Hunters, Blood of Zeus, Tresse, Castlevania, Dragon Prince, even though those first 3 seasons could have been 1, and I will stand by that till the day I die.
You can stand by it. I just don't think you need to. I may not be a parent, but I am a parent.
DT. I love your puns, and if my brain were actually firing on cylinders that weren't about to blow gaskets, I might care, but
shit, that was a pun. I just caught that.
Yes.
You lose points with me, Dragon Turtle. You know what? I hate puns. I've made that very clear.
But between the two of us, we will eventually kill him with puns. DT.
Or I'll kill both of you because I finally snap because of all the puns.
No. You won't kill us. You will punish us. There.
Even for you, I will admit. Like, you must be really tired because that
I
was...
am firing on like one cylinder that is about to blow its last gasket, man. I am going to wait until the next time I have to take my meds, and then I am going to sleep for like 10 hours probably.
Right, I'm just saying, man, like, I know you can do better, and it's very obvious, like, yeah, you are fucking out of it right now.
Like I said, okay, so my schedule this weekend was on Thursday, I had a doctor's appointment, which required me to be up at 10 o'clock. Mind you, my normal schedule is like from 6 in the morning to 4 sleeping. So I had to literally go to bed like 6 hours ahead of schedule the night before just so I would be up on time. Then me and my mom had to drive an hour to get to the doctor's, at which point they didn't even end up doing the injections that they were going to do and just started me on a new medication, or planned to start me on a new medication. They pushed it back a weekend because I said I would be away this weekend and therefore wouldn't be a good idea to start medication that way. But then as soon as I got home, we were packing stuff to go on the weekend trip. And then Thursday evening into Friday, I was staying at my friend's house while he was doing a late shift. Then Friday began the whole escapade of camping medieval nonsense. And I have been running myself ragged for those 3 days. And for some reason, even though I had a comfortable bed to sleep in, my brain just didn't want to sleep. So I only got like 6 hours of sleep that night. So, and that's been that way for the last few days. So I am not okay. It's a good kind of not okay, because it's not as though I was doing anything particularly tragic or trying. It's just I was very, very busy, and I have been run very, very ragged with very little reprieve over the last few days.
All right. Wasabi?
Wasabi!
Find the infant and bring it back alive.
Roger that, sir.
Careful! This is not playtime. You get down from there right now, young lady.
Ultraman, turn the infant over now. Ultraman's gonna save us all. Oh, no, he'll never stop.
Again, it's a simple story, but I think it works. You know, honestly, most of the best movies have a simple plot that you can build out of.
Yeah, a good take on something can afford to be simple. Just like a good take on something can afford to have cliche plot elements. It doesn't always have to subvert your expectations. Doing something conventional in a unique or well done or well crafted way can be enough all by itself sometimes.
Well, if I remember correctly from like a lot of things I've looked up on how to like make movies and stuff, because I have done that just because I wanted to make stuff like that, right? Usually how you try to pitch a movie to someone is, I think it's called the log line. You have to pitch a movie in 1 or 2 sentences, like an elevator pitch, right?
Yeah. Boil it down to give the basis of the idea, or its potential at least. Like Star Wars, but set in a high fantasy setting. Just off the top of my head. I'm amazed nobody has ever tried to do something like that.
I don't say that, Jerry Turtle.
You're not stupid, DT. Your worst quality is that you tend to see the worst in absolutely everything, in all circumstances, including yourself. And as your friend, it is my job to disabuse you of those notions, both generally in the philosophical sense and also to get you to stop beating up on yourself. It's the same thing with Brainstormer. Anytime he tries to beat himself up for something, I metaphorically smack him upside the head and tell him to knock it off.
Heard Aragon is basically Star Wars as a fantasy book. You know, I've actually read Aragon.
Oh.
The movie did not do that book justice.
Only in the loosest, tropiest sense is Aragon similar to Star Wars. I'm talking about literally like doing the politics part, but with a high fantasy setting.
So Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones is nothing like Star Wars.
It's not bad. Yeah, I've read the 2 books. I never got to finish the series. But they're fun books. I kind of wish someone would remake it into a series, because honestly, with those type of books, like those type of book series, you kind of do have to make it like a TV series or something, you know.
I kind of had a similar reaction to Aragon that Brainstormer has with Frozen and other things that have hype around them. Everyone and their mother tried to convince me to read Aragon back in the day, especially our teachers, because there was the famous, well, he was just a kid and he got this published, so you can too, blah, blah. Never mind.
I do find that impressive.
Never mind that he was the Nepo baby brat of a head of a publishing company, and his dad published it as a favor to him, essentially. But I
think it's good though.
Yeah. Also, DT probably knows this about me by now. As far as fantasy books are concerned, I lean more towards paranormal fantasy, urban fantasy, and old history fantasy, more so than medieval high fantasy. So that's also a reason why I don't particularly care for Aragon.
And yet you love Lord of the Rings.
I do, because like Tolkien, and this is again why I think he's better than C.S. Lewis. Both Tolkien and C.S. Lewis wanted quote-unquote Christian themes in their story, but Tolkien had a much broader view of various different cultures and various different mythologies, because he was a literature teacher and an anthropologist, and that enabled him to create a much broader scope for his world and a much less one-to-one derivative world, whereas C.S. Lewis literally started calling the Pevensey children the sons of Adam and daughters of Eve, and literally had Aslan be another version of Jesus. So, like, which is ironic when you consider that it is C.S. Lewis who once famously complained about moral busybodies, when I would certainly argue that in terms of like the overbearing moralistic propaganda, C.S. Lewis is almost as guilty of being a moral busybody as the people he was calling out are and were. And that's one of the reasons why I like the broad concept of Narnia, but I just can never. The overbearing hit me over the head with the Bible of Narnia just turns me off every time.
All right, Rentaro, yeah, I'm the opposite. Urban fantasy is the lowest of the 3. Prefer science fantasy, but medieval or similar pre-industrial high fantasy is a good second place.
And yet you sped through Dresden Files like it was going out of style when I recommended it to you. Granted, it took me 2 or 3 times of recommending it to you before you gave it a shot, but still, once you were hooked, sir.
God, how does this work for me? All right, I think there's like a specific brand of urban fantasy I like. Not sure if I can really like put a pinpoint it, but I do like urban fantasy. Like it's hard for me to like really consider because I've never really thought about like fantasy overall in terms of a genre that I like classifying all of it.
I didn't really start thinking about it either until I saw a bunch of people being very particular about the subgenres, and then it was like, wait a minute, is that why I don't particularly like fantasy stories that have a quasi-medieval setting to them? And then I thought about it, and I realized, yeah, actually, I tend to prefer things that are set in a version of the modern world and/or are essentially like old history or paranormal in their trappings.
So
Which I think also, helps my need for mystical accuracy to be a thing, because a lot of urban fantasy leans more into the plausible, like IRL occult connections than high fantasy does.
So, weirdly enough, I think, given that I've written some high fantasy stories, I honestly would say high fantasy is kind of my first in terms of genres of fantasy, like my favorite. And I guess Star Wars, which would be sci-fi fantasy. Yeah, I would say that would be my second then. And then, yeah, I guess urban fantasy would be my third. So, Dragon Turtle and I kind of align, although I place high fantasy above science fantasy.
It depends on the ratio of science to fantasy. Like, if we're talking about something like Doctor Who, then quite high. If we're talking about something like The Fifth Element or Stargate, then in the deepest bowels of hell may it be condemned.
It's all Stargate.
The fucking ancient alien nonsense. I cannot stand the fucking ancient alien nonsense. Same thing with The Fifth Element.
I will admit that theory is really stupid. Well, not stupid, but it's... What's the word? Over...
And yes, we can talk about this later if you want to, Dragon Turtle. Just be aware that I am nowhere near the top of my game tonight. So if I am unnecessarily irritable to you, it's because I've been running on empty for 3 days and the world just keeps trying to run me places.
Well, for the sake of Dalton actually getting some rest so he can be recharged to have a conversation with anyone, shall we wasabi?
We shall wasabi.
Until she's captured, she needs you. No matter what happens, no matter the stakes, Ultraman will be there. We're gonna do this together.
No, we can do it tonight, DT. I'm warning you that I will be grouchy because I'm running on some emptiness here.
Okay, Dragon Turtle. Yeah, again, I would still place like sci-fi fantasy, like I guess second. With
after your clarification, I still would probably rank sci-fi or sci fantasy kind of low. Again, it's very much to me it's about the ratio. Like something that's sort of pseudo steampunky like Howl's Moving Castle, that I can vibe with a lot easier than something like even 40K. There are things about 40K that I like, but if it's a choice between 40K and Warhammer Fantasy, I'm usually picking Warhammer Fantasy over 40K. So that probably says something about my ranking of sci fantasy even to high fantasy. But then again, it really does depend on the ratio of science to fantasy. I think is the defining factor, whether or not I will like a high fantasy setting.
All right. So back to the trailer. This. I mean, again, it's good. It's colorful. It's action packed, but it also does seem to have really like an emotional core to it, which is cool. And well, I know I brought up the thing of us not anyone here being a parent. I think I mentioned it before that I myself want to be a dad one day.
And you would be a good one, I'm sure.
Well, let's wait until I actually have a kid and see if I screw it up or not.
You're probably, well, I mean, as Dr. House would say, all parents screw up all children. But as long as you keep in mind that you have the potential to screw up, you'll probably screw up a lot less than someone who doesn't think they have the potential to screw up.
Not gonna lie. Well, getting back to the trailer. It still gets me, because again, obviously, it's very heavy-handed and like I want to say allegory, but I don't know if that's really it. But it's very heavy-handed in like the whole parent thing and all that.
I had a similar reaction when I listened to or when I saw the song More Than Anything from Has Been for the first time, because like obviously I am not a dad and probably never will be, all things considered, but I do have a very strained relationship with my own father, and so More Than Anything hit me hard, especially the looks like the apple doesn't fall far part. I almost always tear up at that part for some reason.
But yeah, this gets me a bit just because like it's I say it is heavy-handed. I'm not gonna lie, obviously, but it's done well enough. It's not cheap.
It's not cynical or like it's not cynical or overbearing. It's just very obviously a thing, so to speak.
Yeah. I would argue wholesome, because it did show like a lot of moments where they were happy,
Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, it seems to be going very hard into Big Hero 6's playbook, but then again, Big Hero 6 borrowed a lot from Ultraman, so the wheel keeps turning, so to speak. The circle of life.
All right, you got 28 seconds left, so.
Wasabi.
Wasabi.
Ta-da! Ultraman, the ultimate babysitter.
June 14th. It's not far.
Oh, you're right. It isn't far. We're almost into June.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
It just seems like a fun little romp. Doesn't look like it's trying to do anything crazy or anything. It just looks like it was well made, given a lot of heart, which.
Again, something that Hollywood probably should write down and in big, bold, aggressive letters. It's okay to do something obvious if the obvious thing makes sense, as long as you do it well. As long as you bring something of worth to the actual table.
Yeah. So with that, folks, I want to say goodbye, adios, aloha, Auf Wiedersehen. Sayonara. Peace. Cheers. And
I'll see you in a second, Dragon Turtle. But for now, fuck off.